Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you all for joining us for today's session. My name is Erin Tanaka, and I'm glad to be here today with our Professor Geza Bottlik, who will be discussing our engineering management program. So welcome, everyone. So a couple of notes before we do get started. So you will receive a copy of today's presentation after in a couple business days. I will be sending the presentation over to you. So when there are links, no need to jot them down unless you need them right away. We do encourage you throughout the session to ask questions, so please use the Q&A panel to the right. My colleague Megan Balding will be available to answer any specific questions that you have. Typically, if they are more tailored questions on an individualized basis, she will be able to answer those directly. However, if there are questions that pertain to the full group and that that myself or Professor Bottlik can answer, then we will actually hold off on answering those until the end of the session. You'll also have the opportunity to ask additional questions at the end of the session as well. Okay, so let's get started with the actual presentation. So for today's program, I'll start off by talking a little bit about the University of Southern California, USC. I'll then talk about the Viterbi School of Engineering, and then we'll jump into really the heart of today's presentation, which is going to be on our Master's of Science program in Engineering Management. So Professor Bottlik will share information about the program, so an overview, but also some more details and insight that he has to be able to, that he can share with all of you. In addition, I will then talk a little bit about our online DEN Viterbi delivery method for those that may be interested in pursuing their program online or undecided. And then I will also talk briefly about the tuition and fees. And finally, as I mentioned, I will also open up the opportunity to ask additional questions for anything regarding the engineering management program or pursuing your program, the DEN Viterbi, as well as any other questions you have. So for those of you that may not have visited the USC campus, just some snapshots here to give you an idea of what our campus looks like out here in sunny Southern California. So a little bit about USC. We are the oldest private university in the Western United States. We were founded way back in 1880. Now currently we've grown to a population of over 47,000 students. Our graduate students still being the majority of that population, so we have actually over 27,000 graduate students, and that includes our PhD students as well as our masters, both online and on campus. We have over 4,400 full-time faculty members, and that number doesn't even include many of the adjunct professors or faculty members, as well as those that are guest lecture and come from a variety of different industry. And I know that definitely includes those that teach for the engineering management program as well. And we have a very diverse student population, so we have students actually coming in over 130 countries. I just recently saw an update of how many countries USC represents. In addition, students from all over the U.S. That come to campus. Also, of course, that includes our online students who are all over the world as well. And then in terms of where we're located, so those of you that may not be familiar with Los Angeles or even California, so we are located in Southern California. We are about a 10 to 15-minute drive from the downtown Los Angeles area. Of course, it will highly depend on our traffic situation, as always. We're also about a 45-minute, again, depending on traffic, drive from the Silicon Beach area, which, has a lot of companies that where, some of our students have jobs at, whether it's in engineering or, technical types of jobs as well as internships. So, whether you're interested in jobs in the area or entertainment, the arts, everything that you can think of, we really are in the center of all the action here within Los Angeles. So about the Viterbi School specifically, so we are one of the largest schools here on USC's campus, and we have 8 academic departments. So one of those is our Industrial and Systems Engineering Department, which houses or administers the engineering management program. So, and in terms of our student population, we have over 5,900 graduate students currently. So it's actually the majority of the Viterbi School. Again, that includes our master's as well as our PhD students and grad certificate students. We are a leader in funded research, so we have, over 35 research centers and over $207 million in research expenditures annually. Faculty member, again, we have 188 tenure-track faculty members currently. We have many National Academy of Engineer fellows, members, I should say, 30 in total. And we have over 70 National Science Foundation Career National and Presidential Young Investigator, also there, awardees as well. So just a little bit about our Viterbi School specifically. And then, we do get asked, from time to time, what are we ranked? We have recently, the rankings came out for 2019, and we are proud to say that we are ranked top 10 for our graduate engineering programs overall. So that, that includes all of our programs, whether it's online or on campus. And then specifically in the online arena, we have consistently been ranked the #1 online graduate computer science program, as well as ranked #2 for our online graduate engineering programs, and that includes over 40 programs that we offer, of course, including the engineering management program there too. And then if I have any veterans or active duty military online as well, another great example of our high quality programs is also that we are ranked #1 for online graduate computer science for veterans, as well as #2 for online graduate engineering program for veterans. And I will say, if any of you are veterans or active duty military, I work closely with our prospective students. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me via the Q&A or chat function, and I can definitely make sure to connect with you on any questions you have. So some key points of distinction that we do like to share. So we have an international reputation for excellence. We have partnerships and collaborations with a variety of different organizations as well as companies throughout the world. In addition, when you graduate from USC, it is specifically the Viterbi School. Your degree is really recognized not only here within the U.S., but also worldwide. It's something that is very special. In addition, we have our Trojan Family Network, which is something that is special, unique, and also hard to explain. But there is a Trojan family spirit that is very present. It's something that is a perk to being a USC student. So, whether you're running into engineering alumni from many, many years ago to those that recently graduated, there are so many Viterbi alum out there that time and time again I've had connect with both our prospective students as well as our current students as well. And then in terms of our programs that we offer, we have everything from our bachelor's programs all the way up to our doctorate programs, our PhD programs. We also have graduate certificates as well as short courses and custom programs as well. So a little bit more about our research. So, again, we are a leader in funded research, so we have a variety of research centers in different disciplines. So if you are interested in research, we do encourage you to visit our Viterbi School website, where there's more information about all the different centers and all the different research that is going on at any given moment. But now I will turn over to really the focus of this presentation. So we have Professor Geza Bottlik. He is the director of the Engineering Management Program here at USC Viterbi. He himself has a degree in mechanical engineer with a graduate degree from USC. He has 34 to be exact years of industry experience, 24 at Xerox, computer design, research in physics, industrial engineering management, strategic planning, and finance overlapping, with an additional 29 years at USC. So no small deal there. He has been involved with production planning, decision-making, statistics, project management, engineering economy, as well as supply chain design. So he really is an amazing, fantastic resource, as well as, you know, an incredible supportive staff, faculty member and director here that can bring a lot of insight into the engineering management program. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Professor Bottlik.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Erin. That's being very complimentary. I may or may not deserve all that. At any rate, what I want to do is sort of walk you through these slides and hopefully give you a little bit more insight than just looking at a bunch of PowerPoints to get you a feel of what this program is really like. But the reason I think that we have these programs, and of course there are more and more of them across the United States, is because so many engineers actually become managers. The usual route is, you know, you get started, you make a name for yourself as a good engineer, and one day your boss calls you in and says, hey, you're such a good engineer, why don't you become a manager? And of course the two are not the same thing, and it's hard on people if you have to just jump from one to the other. So this is wonderful preparation, and also, of course, people who are already managers, you can always learn more, and especially if you're, you know, an early first-level manager and just getting started. But, you know, we have people in our program who are 40, 45 years old and have been managing for the last 10, 15 years, and they're still interested in getting better at it. New things come along all the time. You know, we have big data, we have analytics, there's a lot more interest in supply chains. The mathematical sophistication is constantly growing, so it's not surprising that I think people want to learn more. So the program is not just open to, but also very definitely intended for both working engineers and recent graduates from bachelor's programs, as well as anyone who's been around for a while. Clearly, if you're just got your bachelor's degree, this degree is not going to get you a management job out of the box. It makes you much more employable. It vastly increases your chances of being hired as promoted to a management position. And of course, it makes you a better engineer because you understand the way that your manager is actually treating you and asking you to behave. Okay, so I think that I just the next slide kind of is that the program fluctuates. We're generally somewhere between 150 and 150 students, and we graduate somewhere around 75, sometimes more. We generally don't get to less than that. It peaks up and kind of drops back down to this level. About a fifth of the students are actually off campus. Some of them are actually more or less local. That means, you know, they're within 20, 30 miles or 40 miles, and but that would be a lot of hassle for them to come in to work. And of course, when I was a graduate student here, there were no distance programs, and I drove in from Pasadena every couple of days. Of course, in those days, I could get here in 25 minutes from Pasadena.
Not bad.
But not anymore. So even if you are local, it is quite convenient to do this. We'll talk later about how inclusive the classes really are to people who are not physically in the classroom at the same time. Our faculty is probably about half full-time professors and half adjunct lecturers. And but I would also say that the people who are not full-time are many of them have been here for almost forever. Dr. Belson is actually the only one who's been here longer than I have.
Oh, wow.
And we have people who have been here 10, 15 years. So I would simply, and of course, what those people bring to it is still contact with the current industry, and I can certainly feel that because I retired from industry 24 years ago, and while I pride myself on knowing a lot about what goes on out there, it's not the same as actually being out there. One of the most gratifying aspects, to me at least, is to realize that just about everybody gets a job right away, and that's very, 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 very encouraging. We'll talk later about the programs that we have that help you find jobs even while you're here.
Great.
Okay. One of the this is as much a benefit to me personally as it is for the school and for the students, is being a member of a consortium of what is a very high-class list of universities. Can we next slide? I think they got them all on there, so I can talk a little bit. Okay. So these are the schools that are part of the consortium. It's Cornell, Dartmouth, Duke, Johns Hopkins, MIT, Northwestern, Purdue, Tufts, and ourselves. We're at the bottom because we're alphabetically divided. I don't think of ourselves at the bottom, but all of these schools are very well known. The programs are quite different, and it's one of the advantages of being in here is learning much about what goes on in other schools, and yet really not competing with each other because each of these programs is quite distinct from quite others. For example, MIT does not accept anybody with less than 5 years current work experience. Duke has, let's see, 3 times as many students as we do.
Okay.
They're the most similar to us in many ways. So each of these programs is quite different. Dartmouth is a very small program. So each of these has its own features. But the advantage to you as a future graduate of our program is that the alumni network is all of those schools put together, and we used to have a very active alumni get-together twice a year. It's kind of dwindled down a little bit in the recent past because the one alumnus from Dartmouth who was driving it moved to Australia. But we are revitalizing that program. So probably about 40 or 50 alumni from all these schools are going to be meeting at MIT in Boston in April when our next consortium meeting goes on. Okay, backtrack to the previous one.
Sure.
Okay. So the other thing that I think we pride ourselves in is a very good student organization, and that has very little to do with me. It has to do with the fact that I've been very, very fortunate in having at least 5 or 6 very active, very go-getting kind of students who run that organization. We have seminars. We bring companies, specific companies on campus to talk just to our engineering management students, and so which is of course much better than just the employment fairs that we have, which are very, very good, but of course that's for the whole, only sometimes for the whole university or the whole engineering program. This is really specific to us, so the company will come in with 3 or 4 representatives, and we'll have maybe 60 students or so in the room and spend 3 or 4 hours, and almost always results in at least 1 or 2 internships and periodically full-time hires into those companies. So that's very gratifying. Okay. Oh, down to the nitty-gritty details of the program. Okay. Now I'll try and give you a little bit of sense of each of the classes and why it's there. I'm very familiar with this because this is the 3rd version of the program that I've been involved in creating. And so first of all, to go through our required classes, of which there are just 4 out of the 10 that are required to graduate. And we encourage everybody to start with the ISC 500 class, which of course is the best class we have, and you know why, because I teach it.
Right.
just the silliest side thing. No, seriously, it's not a statistics class in the way that you have to learn a lot of equations. You learn how to use software and how to especially use results to make decisions. The whole idea of the class, in fact, it used to be called Decision Making Through Statistics for Engineering Managers, and people complained about the length of the title. But the class hasn't actually changed. So it's basically about learning how to make good decisions based on good analysis of data. Okay. The second one is engineering project management, which is almost self-descriptive. It's taught by a variety of professors, but they all do pretty much the same thing. We talk about what it takes to be a project manager, how to actually plan a project, how to finance it, how to make sure it's profitable, and how to supervise it, and how to wind it down. So all of those things go into good project management. Of course, not all management is managing large projects, and so ISC 544, which is our management of engineering teams, which is kind of a behavioral class, and you know, you learn about managing your career, you learn how people behave in groups, and how to get along in groups, and specifically how managing engineers is not the same as managing accountants. And so, again, we have some very, very experienced professors who teach that class. I get to do it every once in a while in the summer, but it's been 5 or 6 years since I've actually done the class. The fourth of these is called economic analysis of engineering projects. It's not economics in that sense. In many ways, you could retitle it finance and investment in engineering. So basically, you learn about the time value of money, how to finance and actually show that a project is going to be profitable, and so all the financial analysis that goes into both investing in companies and also the way companies actually raise money, and how all of us who ever worked as engineers realize that you don't get to do what you want unless you actually get somebody to pay for it. And so this basically teaches you how to talk to the finance people who control the purse strings. Okay. Well, being a management class, of course, we have to deal with management, and we've used to have specific class that we required in the next area, but we found that was really too narrow, and this way it's almost as if you had one more elective. Clearly, it has to be approved, and I'm a relatively easy person to get a class approved as long as it has engineering and management content and is a graduate class. It's perfectly okay. And so it's really nice that you get to choose this, because we also have an excellent business school, the Marshall School of Business, and they have a great variety of classes that are available in that area. Okay. We have a group called Engineering Elective, which is intended to improve your mathematical and quantitative feelings. There again, those are three choices. Frequently, people will ask, well, can I take this one instead or another one instead? And I'm a little bit more persnickety about which ones can get approved there, but there's still a relative latitude. My personal favorite is 562, which is value and decision theory, where you learn about how people make decisions, how they should make decisions, how to do negotiation, how do you value information, and it includes game theory and valuation. So, that one is taught by full-time faculty who have an international reputation both Professor Abbas and Detlef are known the world over as in decision theory. And that leaves you with 4 electives, okay? And one of those can be a 400-level class, which means it's a class of mixture of graduate students and 4th-year undergraduates. And what I like to do is to sit down with each of you, and put together a program that makes sense to you. What happens most frequently is that people are very, very interested in supply chain. And if you choose those electives carefully, you can earn a supply chain certificate from the Marshall School, which we developed together with the Marshall School. So there's a crossover of many engineering classes in that area as well. And so that's one area. Of course, some people choose a variety of mostly business classes, but also could be engineering. And there's a small minority who simply elect to improve their undergraduates. So if they're industrial engineers, they'll pick industrial engineering classes. If they're, electrical engineers, they pick electrical classes and so on. But that's not a big group. But the point is it's available, and they are electives. So you need to get them approved, but there's not. You can't take a gym class.
Yeah, got it.
That's much
You'd be
fun.
surprised, some people.
The gym classes are nice, but not to a particular degree.
Gotcha.
Okay. Another very valuable thing, if you have more time and money, but it is a good deal because most of these programs are either 27 or 30 units. So if you take 2 degrees, then you're at 57 or 60 units. And this dual degree program allows you to actually get both 2 distinct master's degrees for 48 units. And those are the 4 other divisions that we have. I'm currently looking at industrial engineering and product engineering to add to that list, but that's going to take another year. The idea, of course, is that you get a master's in electrical, aerospace, mechanical, or petroleum, and you also get a master's in engineering management. And basically, the 2 programs share electives, and that's what allows us to whittle this down from 60 units to 48, which is a very substantial savings, both in time and money, and a very good deal because now you do have a terrific chance to improve your basic expertise.
Great.
Okay, so what do our students do? Well, mostly they study, I hope. But I think this is perhaps one place where I can talk a little bit about the benefits of being in Southern California. I barely knew where Southern California was. I was getting an undergraduate degree in New York and went to work for Burroughs Corporation, which is now part of Unisys, designing computers in Pennsylvania. And I was there for about 8 weeks, and my manager calls me in. He says, we have another computer division in Pasadena, and they desperately need people. Are you willing to go to California? I got married. They paid for my honeymoon.
Wow.
I moved out here, and except for a few years, I spent a couple of years teaching at the University of Michigan, and because I followed my significant other there. And I also commuted to Tucson to the University of Arizona for 7 years, where I was teaching both at Arizona and at USC. But Los Angeles is a great place. And so if you come here, that's another big advantage to get. Now, I have nothing against New York or Philadelphia. They're all very, very nice places. But Los Angeles is kind of special. I teach during the summers. I've taught in Rome, Paris, Madrid, in London, and Florence, and they're all lovely places, but I'm glad I'm in Los Angeles. Okay, so what our graduates do? Well, they get jobs. And I think the majority actually go into some sort of consulting. And they tend to drift into areas that tend to be industrial engineering oriented. That's both because the program is in industrial engineering, but also because industrial engineering is the broadest area of engineering, which means that you have a very large area in which to work. And this program tends to, just prepare you to be a good manager, but it also, depending on how you pick your classes, makes you very employable in supply chain, in analytics, in anything to do with running a business.
Great. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Do you want to go over this?
Yeah, now it's your turn.
Okay. So, well, thank you so much for all those details. And I will now just go into a little bit more of the details specifically for the application criteria, as well as the admissions for the Master of Science in Engineering Management. So in general, this is specific to engineering management, so not in general, but specifically, an undergrad degree or Bachelor of Science in Engineering, Math, or Hard Science from a regionally accredited university is required. So, we do also recommend at least a 3.0 GPA and a 4.0 scale, although it's not required, so there's, technically not a minimum GPA that's required, but, if you have less than a 3.0 and, it's a concern, we do just encourage you to strengthen other areas of your application. Now, engineering management is a degree program where, there are supplemental materials that are required, which we realize that is, additional work to get those letters of recommendation and statement of purpose, but it also means that those other qualitative materials are also looked at. So it's not just about your GRE or just your GPA, but a combination of all these things. So the GRE, though, is required, so only the GRE is accepted, so you would need to take the general exam. If you've taken it before, as long as the scores are less than 5 years old, then that would be acceptable. So also, you would need to submit a resume or a CV, and that's something that you would upload through the online application. And in terms of the letters of recommendation, so there are 3 letters of recommendation, highly recommended. So, we do encourage you to submit letters from managers, supervisors, if you had any faculty members in the past that can speak to your academic performance, that's great as well. But really, you are kind of the best determiner, the best person that can know who can give you the best recommendation. So we encourage you to select those carefully. Also, a statement of purpose is required, so you will need to submit that as well through the graduate application. And then finally, if you are an international applicant, then you would need to take the TOEFL English Proficiency Language Exam as well. But if you have questions or you want to see the full details, we do encourage you to visit the link available down there. That way you can just make sure that you have all of the materials gathered beforehand. So in terms of application deadlines, we did have a fall 2019 deadline that recently passed that pertains to the on-campus students. However, if you are planning to pursue your program online via DEN Viterbi, we do have an application extension available. So if you are interested in getting started for the fall 2019 semester, which starts in August, I should say, we can offer you an extension, but you will need to email us at den@viterbi.usc.edu in order to find out the details about that. If that is too soon for you, spring 2020, and this applies for on-campus students as well, the next deadline is going to be for spring 2020. It starts in January of next year. The application deadline is going to be September 15th of this year. And then for on-campus students only, the deadline for the scholarship consideration is August 31st. For DEN Viterbi students, we do have a DEN Viterbi scholarship, and that's separate from the graduate application, so that's why there's not the deadline indicated there for online students. And then finally, fall 2020, which sounds like a very far away time, but is actually coming up just around the corner. I can't believe it's almost 2020. But the deadline for that semester, which starts in August of 2020 will be January 15th. So it's a very consistent cycle in terms of the deadlines there. You can see the patterns. But you can visit the specific degree program. In this case, hopefully it's engineering management, and then go through the steps for how to apply in our graduate application as well. So in terms of the delivery method, we have two delivery methods available. So we have students that are local that come to campus, and they typically tend to pursue their program full-time. So oftentimes these are those that are more recent graduates, and they just want to get through the program, but it doesn't mean you have to. And typically they take 3 classes per semester and are graduating about 1.5 to 2 years, depending on how fast-paced they go. And then also we do have a good amount of students in the engineering management program that pursue their program online via DEN Viterbi. I'll talk about that delivery method in a bit, but essentially because the large majority, almost over 90% of DEN Viterbi students are working full-time, they tend to take 1 and sometimes 2 classes per semester, just depending on their schedules, and then they're graduating on average about 2.5 to 3 years. Of course, a little bit longer for the dual degree programs, I will say that too. So how DEN Viterbi works. So essentially, there's a lot of different online programs out there, and so if you are, comparing programs, it is really kind of key to note that for our program, we are considered what's known as a blended model. So we have our own in-house proprietary web-based system known as DEN Viterbi here, and essentially our DEN students have a lot of flexibility. So the first thing they can do in terms of watching lectures is to watch the lectures as they're happening on campus. So you are in the same exact courses as the on-campus students are. So when you're watching a lecture, it's the same lecture as on-campus students. You'd be able to log in and ask any questions via phone or through the Q&A panel. You'd also be able to watch the lectures on your own time. So especially, we know that that's very important for those that are either, in a different time zone or those that have, long work hours sometimes. And so this enables you to watch the lectures when you're able to. Of course, we hope that you stay up to speed with the lectures as much as possible and not get too behind. But essentially, each of the lectures, the live lectures, are recorded, and then they are available through the course archives from that moment until the end of the semester. So you can go back, you can watch the lectures, download them, and stream them on your own time, and you can watch them even while traveling, which is great, very flexible. In addition, for those that, may be, somewhat local but don't want to fight traffic all the time, and, it can be kind of tricky to get to campus after work, then we do encourage you to pursue your program online, even if you think you may not be able to come to campus a couple of times, because you can also come to campus as an online DEN Viterbi student. So that is something to note there. In addition, our DEN students have the ability, if there is ever a course, and particularly I think this may apply sometimes for if you take an elective course that may be outside the Viterbi school, and if it's not available on campus, you would also be able to enroll on campus and in courses that are only offered on campus, if that's ever the case, not too often, but just so you know, that's also a possibility as long as you're able to come to campus for that as well. Some other things to note, we do have exams, of course. So if you are within a 25-mile radius of the campus, you would come and be expected to take your exams here on USC's campus. If you're outside of that area, then you would take your exams either at a proctored location, oftentimes it's a community college, a library, but also we do have a good amount of our DEN students that are able to have corporate proctors, meaning that they have a supervisor or a manager that can proctor their exams, your exam, without having to leave the work site, which is really convenient for our students as well. But we do have a full, dedicated team, exam coordinating office that can also assist if you have any questions about, finding a proctoring location. So for those of you that kind of are debating between being a DEN student versus an on-campus student, this just shows you a side-by-side comparison of the two delivery methods. So, program admission is exactly the same. You would complete the graduate application and submit all the required materials. As I mentioned, DEN students have really 3 options for watching the lectures, so live with Interactivity, via the course archives, as well as being able to come to campus. Whereas on-campus students, they're expected to come to campus, but they do have access to the course archives based off of whether or not there is a DEN student in the classroom. So there has to be at least one DEN student. So something to note there as well. Assignments, you would have the same exact assignments, same deadlines there. Typically for DEN students, it's going to be electronically submitted, often through the course management system.
About electronic submission, actually, there is no difference because I haven't seen a piece of paper assignment in the last 10, 15 years. So everybody, both on campus and off campus, submits homework electronically, and it's returned electronically as well.
Great, awesome, good to know. And then talked about exams, talked about courses per semester. Degree completion requirements are exactly the same. So if it's 30 units for engineering management, it's 30 units for DEN students and on-campus students. Yeah.
I one more. Gee, I almost lost what I was going to say. Oh yes. If you're if you're a distance student and you feel like coming to class, you're more than welcome. We generally have extra seats available, and I know I always think about we have Korean Air as come with students about every semester, and they of course get free flights. So I get to see my Korean Air students at least once or twice a semester. They'll come fly. So, but it's not common, but it's certainly available, and I think it's I always feel that's a real pleasure for me to physically meet people who are usually not here.
Yeah. That's great, and I'll actually also, touch upon that, and that, here as a DEN student, you have access to all the campus resources here, whether it's the library, the gym, or, if you want to come and to the football games and you want the discounts, you are a USC student. Also, for those that may be concerned about, I can't get to campus, on the opposite end, you don't have to come to campus ever. It's an option that's there for you, but it's not required for you to step foot on campus. And this just kind of gives you an idea of what a behind the scenes looks like for a typical DEN classroom. So, behind every classroom is a camera operator. They sit, oftentimes they're one of our cinema students, and they make sure that everything that is going on campus in terms of, the audio that you're able to hear. If students in the class have questions and you're able to hear them, there's embedded microphones in the classroom. Also, when there's, content that's up close, they want to make sure that you can see everything. So they really are kind of your eyes and ears on campus. So you're not just left with not being able to see or hear things. And in addition, we have a full network DEN tech support team that is available on hand, as well as, our support staff specifically that work with our DEN students. So you will, be assisted in many different ways here, and it is something that we feel is very special and unique about our delivery method, our online delivery method. Also, this kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like to be able to download, stream the lectures, so you can jump to a certain part of the lecture, you can bookmark content, there's breadcrumbs at the top for easy navigation, you can speed up the lectures, slow down. I know some people have done that before, but essentially just being able to watch it how you'd like on your own time.
And, of course, the other tremendous advantage is that you can listen to the lecture as many times as you want to. You may not want to sometimes, but it's always there. So say, gee, I missed the last half and I didn't get it the first time, just rerun it again. Yeah,
it's such a great studying tool that I think everybody would love to have that.
Well, especially if you're a non-English speaker like I am, it's although I don't need repeating it like I used to, but you know, if you're relatively new to English, it really helps to be able to look at it a couple of times.
Yeah, definitely. This just gives you an idea of, you know, how it can be presented. So in this case, it's the faculty member. You can see them really focusing on a certain part of the lecture, but then you can also see up close the smart board in this case. So, you know, you have more than one view oftentimes.
Yeah. Well, the camera operator is very adept at picking the right camera and, you know, either zeroing in on what you're writing on or zeroing on the board or zeroing on your face or, you know, any one of those things.
Yeah. And then in terms of student interactivity and group meetings, so, you know, I'm assuming there's, you know, a good amount of group projects or presentations.
It depends on the class.
Yeah.
Project management and engineering team management is heavily, but even in my mathematical classes, I alternate individual with teamwork assignments.
Yeah. And so, you know, outside of class as well, you know, there's a variety of communication tools that our DEN students use, and this applies also to our on-campus students. I mean, there are definitely a good amount of on-campus students who, you know, also prefer to just, you know, be at their homes and interact with other classmates online. So whether it's, you know, via BlueJeans, Google Hangout, WebEx, Adobe Connect, there's so many different systems out there that our students really use. In terms of setting meetings with faculty members, I don't know what you prefer, but.
Well, you know, I obviously have old office hours on campus, and you can always call in on the telephone. That's been the main way that I've communicated with students, and of course a lot of email. Every semester there are some students where I think I get an email almost every day.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And you know, with 75, 80 students, it's not that heavy a load, because there are students, of course, who've never sent me an email. You know. But,
there you go. Great. So yeah, that's accessible to you. Also, you know, you can call in during live lectures. Some courses, you know, depending, will have, you know, threaded chats and discussion boards too. So, you know, just a variety of different ways to communicate and interact with other students. So to wrap up, you know, DEN Viterbi, hopefully you already know the answer to this, but, you know, is there any difference between earning a master's degree on campus versus online via DEN Viterbi? The answer is no. So again, it's the same admission criteria, curriculum, exams, homework, graduation requirements. So you really are ensured that, you know, you are earning a Master's of Science in Engineering Management. And there's no online distinction that you're an online student whatsoever. So it's the same exact degree. So just some additional things. For those of you that may be interested in getting started as early as this summer, which starts in May, you do have the opportunity to enroll as a limited status student. So a limited status student enables those with a 3.0 GPA or above with an engineering or related degree program to get a jump started on taking courses before applying for formal admission. So basically you could take up to a maximum of 12 units. So, you know, depending on the number of units, that typically is 3 to 4 courses. And you could take those courses, but if you do want to apply for formal admission or be considered for formal admission, you would still need to apply. It does not guarantee that you're formally admitted, but if you are later on admitted into, you know, the Master of Science in Engineering Management program, for example, and if you took courses that are related to the degree program, meaning that they are required courses, then those courses would count towards your degree program if you're admitted.
Yeah, and you know, I made up my mind about going to graduate school somewhere late July one year, and I took advantage of this. And my first semester, I took three classes, and of course you work a lot harder because you want to make sure you get the kind of grades that will get you admitted, and so that's how I got started here.
Great. And in addition, there is, we have a tuition deferment program. So this is really for those that whose companies pay 75 to 100% of their tuition. Lucky you if this applies to you, but essentially it enables students to defer their upfront payment of their tuition until after the semester is over. If this does apply to you, you can find information about the program. We also have a DEN Viterbi scholarship, which is intended for those that are not fully funded, but they are pursuing their program via DEN Viterbi. So if you are interested in that scholarship, we can also share additional information about that as well. Tuition and fees, this is our current tuition and fee structure. So if you take that per unit cost, you can kind of figure out just how much the program will be, essentially. So keeping in mind that the tuition can change over time and will change over time, just the reality of how tuition can be. But in addition, there are some per semester fees, so you'll want to take a look at the specifics there indicated. To get started, for those of you that are interested in taking courses on campus, we do encourage you to come to campus if you're ever able. You're welcome to meet with one of our on-campus representatives here within the graduate professional programs. If you're lucky enough, you may also get to meet with Professor Bottlik, and he's saying he's happy to meet with you, so that's fantastic. In addition, of course, those that are interested in taking classes online via DEN, you are more than welcome to reach out to us via email, via phone, if you want to come to campus to also meet Professor Bottlik or myself. I'm happy to also meet with DEN students if you're able to come to campus as well. But you can get started as a limited student as early as this summer, so right around the corner in May. Also, for those of you that are interested in getting started for formal admission and applying for the fall 2019 semester, again, only for DEN Viterbi applicants, we can offer an extension. So be sure to email us about that. So here are the separate email addresses. So for on-campus prospective students, you'll want to contact the on-campus team at this particular email address. For online DEN Viterbi applicants, contact myself as well as Megan via the denviterbi.usc.edu. And so I guess at this point, if you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A panel. We'd love to answer any questions you have. This is your opportunity to ask Professor Bottlik any questions. But I do have a question that comes up a lot often from students or prospective students, and the question is kind of, between an MBA and an engineering management degree, what are kind of the key differences and the factors that you should really think about in determining, which way to go?
Well, I think the most obvious difference actually is that engineering management programs are easier to get into than MBA programs are, but most MBA programs require experience. They mainly are looking that you already make a lot of money, so when you graduate, they can say how much money you are making. But seriously, the content is different. The content is aimed at running a business, right, or being in finance or accounting or business-oriented. So it's not concerned with running projects. It's not concerned with dealing with engineers. And those are the main differences. I think that this is clearly, if you want to be an investment banker or something, by all means get an MBA. But if you want to stay in a company that produces a product, whether it's actually made in China afterwards, after you design it or not, you definitely ought to look at engineering management. It's meant to prepare you to deal with managed engineers.
Okay, and then I think another question that comes up too is just, regarding experience, is it kind of, are you better off to get a couple years of experience first, or, I know that you did mention about, you can go right after a bachelor's degree, but, from your experience, what advice do you have for somebody that's debating?
Well, it's a two-edged sword. I think if you come directly out of a bachelor's program, you're used to being a student. Right?
Correct, yeah.
So, so it's just keep going to school. And so in that sense, it's easier to do that. If you've been away from school for a while, the routine of being a student is more difficult. On the other hand, you have experience and you have more maturity, and so those advantages kind of even out.
Yeah.
And it's really, when I look at my classes, and I'm a incorrigible statistician. I keep track of anything you can ever think of. And so I got a fairly good idea of who performs well and how different people perform. Mm-hmm. And you really can't tell the difference. You cannot tell the difference between people who are just starting out or people who have been around for a while. In an academic setting, they all pretty much do the same thing.
Great. Okay. Well, I don't see any additional questions. I don't know if there's any other.
No, I think I've hit all the points, except we love to have more students.
Yes, absolutely. So definitely, feel free to reach out to me, at denviterbi.usc.edu, and I would be happy to connect you as well if you have any, specific questions. But, we do encourage you to get started as soon as possible. I can definitely help with the, application process or, if you want to start as a limited status student. But I want to thank Professor Bottlik again for, all your support, continued support over the years, and just being such a fantastic, director and faculty member. We're really lucky to have you. So thank you all so much for joining us for today's session. We hope you found it informative. I know I did, but we thank you so much and have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.